We're just preparing the live stream that should be going out any minute. We've got Gilda here. We've got Daniel will be returning, and Nuno and Camilla from Winsurance as well. And we'll check in on other Dream Team members as we begin. Right, we're definitely going out live on YouTube now, which is great. Okay, so let's come back to Zoom and say good evening to you, Gilda Pereira of EI. How are you this evening? How's the world of visas?
Hello, how are you?
Very good. Muito bem, obrigado. Contigo?
Também, obrigada. I see
Oh,
you're improving your Portuguese.
thank you. That means a lot to me. Thank you, Gilda. It's all that time I spend in bars and restaurants, which I recommend is a great way of learning Portuguese. What's new, Gilda? Has the election completely dominated CEF IMA? Although that was the big news last week, wasn't it? The CEF website had been unmothballed, it would appear.
I didn't know that. Was it?
You were telling us that last week when you were here. You'd had a very busy day because certain parts of the CEF website had been reopened.
Oh, yeah. I understood another thing. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Yes, but now it's everything back to normal again.
Okay. Well, and everything dominated by the election, presumably.
Um, yeah, but I think that they are taking little steps, trying to be independent from who is until they have anything that will tell them to change. They are going to keep doing the same,
Yeah.
um,
Okay.
and they are taking little steps.
And that is some way down the line, of course, before the new politicians get anywhere near to making the law. We'll talk to Daniel about that in just a moment. He needs a well-deserved rest. We've worked him really hard in the last webinar, which was superb, and that will be published all about the law here when it comes to property. Mainly about buying, it has to be said. So we'll do another webinar, I suspect, with a bit more of a focus on renting. But great job, Daniel. Let's go to the world of insurance. Camilla and Nuno are here. How are you this evening, Nuno?
Hello everyone. Good evening. I'm pretty well. I'm with you just a few minutes because I'm returning from Porto towards Lisbon, and I'm just doing a quick pit stop at the gas station, just to give you a hi. Only days.
Well, thanks for being here. And the sound quality is perfect from within the cockpit there. So thank you for
Oh yes, Batman has the Batmobile, and any car I have a office mobile, so it's the same.
I can never see you in the same light. I imagine you'll always be wearing a cape and have your shirt tucked into your underpants. Okay, thanks, Nuno. Thank you very much. Well, actually, yeah. Let's stay with you for a moment because what's new or not in the world of insurance?
Okay, so in insurance world, there are no big news. Only to note one regarding Life insurance, we keep receiving feedback from non-Portuguese people with the insurance policy abroad that when they ask to the insurer if they are covered, uh, being now a resident in Portugal, they know that they are not insured, and this is like a 50-50. So some insurers keep insuring them, and others just stop the coverage. So this is the first, and the second one, it's just a flag, not a red flag, but maybe an orange or yellow flag
Right.
regarding some assistance at the hospital, and I'm talking about health insurance, because we know that some hospitals, the most common is school, that I don't know if it's some thing that they don't know, or if they are just trying to take some advantage from the people that don't know. But we are receiving some questions if the bills are correct, and they are not correct.
Oh, okay.
So feel free, even if your insurance policy is not with us, feel free to call us or send us an email, and we'll assist you with that, trying
That's
to find
really
out if
kind of.
everything is okay or not.
I
Okay.
will need your assistance because I think that they tricked me.
Okay. And the hospital you mentioned there was CUF. That's
Yes,
CUF, isn't it? Which is an interesting word.
It's
And
not
one of the
only
hospital
CUF,
brands. Right.
but
Okay.
yeah, usually
Okay.
it's CUF.
they
That's
are
a
big.
lovely offer. And
Yeah.
Gilda will be taking you up that up on that offer first thing in the morning by the sound of it. So there you go, Nuno. Thank you very much for that. Anything
Thank you,
else from
Nuno.
you?
Thank you, Gilda.
Okay, all right, fantastic. I do have some questions that left over from the last webinar relating to insurance as well, which I'll put to Camilla, I think, in
Yes,
case you'll be disappearing quite soon. Nunu, a safe journey home,
thank you so
and
much.
we look forward to seeing you again soon. Let's say a quick hello to Vera, who's here from Mortgage Direct. How are you, Vera? Because I think
Just
we're
taking out the mute. Yeah, I'm here. Hello, good evening.
Hi there, Vera. And we'll be having an extended webinar with you, of course, next Thursday, where people can find all about financing their purchase of their dream property here in Portugal. How are
Yes.
things for you and the mortgage industry this week?
Well, not so much news. Just like as I said last week, the Euribor has went down a little bit. So in consequence, we have better rates now to offer, especially for non-residents. You can get you a fixed rate for at least 3%.
Perfect. Okay.
Very good.
Excellent. All right. We'll unpack that a little bit more. And obviously the big questions that are usually asked when it comes to financing the dream home is the age limits and what and the other conditions that people will be up against or will need to satisfy here in Portugal over an hour webinar next Thursday evening with Vera, who you can see here, and we'll talk to you again next week. But any questions this evening, let's put them in the chat and we can put them to Vera about lending, borrowing money for financing property. Big news of the week then, Daniel. Let's go to you before we lose you this evening. You're here, I think, for the first half of the session and thereafter a well-earned break. You did a great job for us, which will be published next Sunday night at 6. You are in the area of law, of course, and as a student, I think you took a particular interest in the Constitution. Must have been an interesting week for you. What's your view on the election here in Portugal and the result?
It's messy. It's messy because
Right.
it's going to be difficult to form a government or a stable government. And what the majority of people are thinking is that we'll be having new elections within 6 months to a year.
Really?
It doesn't sound anything stable because in Portugal we're not used to have 3 different blocks. And this is the reality that we have in the parliament. 3 different parties that will not get along between of them, and if one of them forms a government, it's most likely that the other parties will overthrow them in a short notice. So I think that the elections that we just had, they will not last for a substantial amount of time, and within, let's say, a year, we're going to have new elections. And the Social Democrats, so the center right-wing party, did win the election, but they cannot govern without doing a coalition with Chega. And this is the right-wing party that it's the third party that came into having a lot of people in the parliament. Therefore, we are a bit on a standoff, and it's not going to be easy to resolve. And probably the way to resolve this is to go again to elections and to have a more stable majority. But this is crystal ball gazing. I wouldn't like to be the constitutional professor that we have as a president, Marcelo Rebelo de Sousa. He is in for tough decisions in the next few months.
And so it will be his decision, will it, to call an election if he can't make them work with each other?
It can be his decision. He can do that, but I think that's what will actually happen is that the government, they will be able to form a government until the beginning of next year, and at the time that they will try to approve the budget will not be approved, and then the president will dissolve the parliament and have new elections to be taken. So this is what I think it will happen, because there's no possibility with the current parliament that we have to have a stable majority for 4 years.
Some people suggest, though, that if there's another election, Shaker might become even stronger, and we'll be in the same dynamic, but deeper into
or worse.
Yes, right.
Worse.
So how will that help?
It's difficult to know what's the direction of the votes. What the political analysts are stating is that there's a substantial portion of the people that voted for Chega that are disenchanted with the current politicians and the system. And what the system needs to do, what we call the center, is to capture those voters again, but they'll need to trust the system. And it's difficult at the current stage with all the political scandals that occurred in the last years for people to develop trust in the normal or common or center politicians. Therefore, I think that we'll have a few years of political instability. This is not common in Portugal. We've had a few years of political stability, but this doesn't seem that is going to be the reality in the next 2 to 4 years.
Absolutely fascinating. I could talk with you for the whole of the Dream Team session about this, but I know we have other questions to address. It is fascinating, particularly from a foreigner point of view with Chega and their view on immigration. But anyway, unless there are other questions from people coming from the chat, which of course I will put to Daniel and our panel here. So while we've got you, Daniel, there were some carryovers from the last session, including speaking of hiring a surveyor, as you were. And we can bring Nunu on in on this as well. Does it ever make sense to get a survey for insurance purposes, such as to avoid special or flood or fire surcharges? I mean, I guess we can put that to Nunu, can't we? That if a surveyor comes in, will that help with your insurance premiums, Nunu, when someone is buying a house?
I didn't understood the question about the survey. What kind of survey?
We like a home inspection to see if the house is especially prone to things that might make it uninsurable or have. I think it was Diana. Diana, you asked that question, Diana, didn't you? Would you like to unmute and address Nunu?
Yeah, actually, so if you saw where we live here in Massachusetts, you would suspect that our home would be flooded every year. And yet a surveyor said we're not in a 100-year floodplain, and flood insurance is a very expensive additional insurance in the US. So we avoided needing it, and we've never had a drop of water in our basement either. So the survey was correct.
Okay.
Is it similar there? And my son has to pay a lot for fire coverage because he's in LA.
Okay. Hello, Diana. Thanks for the question. Here we are not so cautious, but there are some questions about what is the distance towards a river, for example. But we don't have a special insurance. It's a usual coverage from the property insurance. Yes, we could have, and as far as I know, only two insurers do this in Portugal, is to evaluate content, not directly or only related with flood, but with the overall risks of the property. But only about content, not the inspection of the house. If the house has like 100 years old, yes, the insurer will not automatically insure flood or other risks. But this is to older houses that were not renovated yet.
Okay, Diana, does that help? I'm gonna take that as a yes. Thank you. Oh yeah,
yes, thank you.
Okay, all right, Diana. Thank you very much. You're sitting very still there. And
By
thank
the
you.
way,
Go on.
sorry to interrupt you, Carl. I'm going to leave you with the amazing Camilla.
Great.
So,
excellent. Thank you, Camilla. And thanks, Nunu.
Okay.
Safe journey home. Okay.
Talk
All
tomorrow,
right. Wonderful.
Gilda.
Excellent stuff, Nunu. Thank you so much. It was title insurance was the other insurance question that came up in the legals around property with Daniel before. It might need a little bit of explanation, but is that such a thing? Title insurance over here in Portugal? I think Nunu's staying around for this one.
What is that?
Yeah, right. This
that was my question.
Yeah, this I'm not sure if we have the person who asked that question here with us, but if we can have somebody explain title insurance who understands that from a US perspective, which is where I think the question originated, we can put that to Camilla a bit later on, or we can come back to you next week on the Dream Team session when we've looked into that. It might be something that's lost in translation or different culturally. Matthew B, are you putting your hand up for that?
Yeah, I will say title insurance is basically insurance to ensure that the actual property and how it was listed and any things that were associated with it were factual. And if not, or there's any recourse, the recourse is the insurance would actually cover anything as far as like, we'll say you have an open, I want to say it's like an open permit or something to do some work and it was never completed out or closed out. Title insurance would do a full search of that sort of stuff and protect the buyer from those type of gotcha moments.
Excellent. Thanks, Matthew. Over to you, Nuno. We've kept you here for that.
I take this, Camilla. There are no such thing, such kind of insurance as a standalone, but because it's part of the professional liability insurance policy of the agent. Because in Portugal, we don't we cannot put advertising our that we are selling the house. Okay, so we need to do this using an agent. Okay, I believe that Casa Portuguesa could do this, right, Gilda? So they should have professional liability insurance that could cover this.
Okay, and would that include liens against the house as well? Because that's coming in from Rebecca. Can you also assure that there are no liens against the property, and if there are, would that be covered in a similar insurance policy?
I don't know what is liens.
The liens are the charges against the old the seller, basically costs incurred by the seller that then get passed on to the new owner of the property.
Okay, I think that we are entering on a gray area, mostly related with the law. And
yes.
Daniel,
the smile on Daniel's face tells us we're going into a gray area.
The key person to answer you.
Yes, thanks, Nuno. Go on. Bon voyage. I think you should get on your way.
I'm going to hear Daniel and I'm leaving then.
Okay, all right. Over to you, Daniel.
Well, the liens are, as we call it in Portuguese, encargos. And this is something that needs to be registered in the property documents in the land registry. And we can indeed ascertain if it has any things that are registered. It can be something as silly. We've had a case here in the law firm of an old rental agreement from the time of the monarchy that was still registered with a property. And it made the life of everyone really difficult to cancel that contract that was registered in the property. So having the documents properly assessed is indeed relevant. And this is something that we can detect as lawyers assessing the property documents for sure. But it seems that from Nuno's perspective, we don't have any title insurance in Portugal. I was not aware of this product being developed. And the assurance that you can have is having professionals looking into the property documents and seeing if you are in any risk. That's basically the way to mitigate or reduce the risk over there. But there's no possibility of having an insurance.
Thank you both. Thank you both, Daniel and Nuno. That's as good as it gets at the moment. And of course, Nuno always looks into new insurance possibilities, and this might be one of them in the future. Gail might have a question attached to this. As Lorinda, I think you've unmuted to speak as well. But go ahead, Gail, first.
Just to get some background, because I've been involved in land, both in US and Canada as part of oil and gas. So title insurance, in Canada, we have the title registry. And you can count on that and have certainty that when you do a land title search, the title accurately reflects ownership and any encumbrances or liens. In the United States, because they have deeds and some of the way that each state has had different registry systems, there is a potential that someone could come up with a deed to show that they had ownership 100 years ago or whatever,
Wow.
and they have some legal claim. So it's a little different in the United States than in Canada because we can count on our title. It's called a mere principle. What you see is what you get. And if there is a difference or a register mistake, there's title insurance that the land registry carries that will make you whole. So it's in the United States often, if you're building a large building or anything, you want to be careful that somebody doesn't come up like on Manhattan Island and show, hey, we have ownership, we have a deed. It may not have shown up when you did a check at the county office, but we have a valid deed. That's why people carry title insurance.
Thanks, Gail, for that. Really helpful, and an area that Nuno, I'm sure we'll look into as a result of what you've said there. That could be a very useful service product for the American moving.
Well, it will
Canadian.
depend on Portuguese law.
Yeah.
If they have, as Daniel said, a title registry where you can go, if you can count on that, that what the Portuguese title registry has a mere principle, in other words, yes, that is the definitive source of ownership, then you don't need title insurance.
Okay.
Correct. I'll jump in on this one, Carl, if you don't mind.
Of course. Thanks, Daniel.
The Portuguese title registry is updated electronically. So once we're doing the due diligence on a property documents, we'll consult it via a code on the go. So it's basically something that is of public access as long as you have that code. And even if you don't have the code, you can pay 15 euros and obtain a new code for a property. And if it's not registered, it doesn't exist. That's basically the principle. So if there's any liens, any encumbrances that the property has, they need to be registered. Otherwise, it's not existent. There's a few eventual exceptions, and this is something that we usually detect or try to detect before our clients get into trouble. And once you're buying a property, a large plot of land, there are some traditional rites of passage. So you need to provide passage to people to pass with their tractors or with their livestock. And sometimes these are not registered. So a situation may occur that something is a bit on the blind spot, but we usually talk with the people around, the neighbors, and we look into something as useful as, again, Google Maps. If you don't see a path, something crossing the plot, well, it doesn't exist. If it's not something that you can see with your eyes, and someone was saying, well, I go and collect olives from those trees in the last 15 years, you cannot block me from doing so. Well, actually, it can, because if it's only used once per year, then this is not rite of passage. But that's only eventual blind spot that can occur, and this is only for big plots. For normal housing, this doesn't occur, this rites of passage, because all other liens and encumbrances will need to be registered within the land registry. And if it doesn't exist in the land registry, basically it doesn't have any legal protection. And let's say that a property is bought today and that the notary registers the deed today. It may take 2 weeks to, in some instances, 3 months to get the final land registry updated. But the differentiator is that from the time that the notary submits the deed, it will have an annotation on the land registry stating that it's a pending registry. There's a pending registry. And if we as lawyers or anyone that deals with properties sees a land registry with a pending registry, this is a major red flag, and we stop on our tracks until we perceive what is the stuff that is pending, and we can call the land registry and try to gauge what is indeed pending of registry. But it's something immediate. This pending registry is something that appears within 1 or 2 hours after the deed is done, although the final registration of the deed, transactioning the property from A to B, may take 3 months in some instances, but at least that pending registry will be there, safeguarding the position of everyone, and the property will not be transactioned 3 or 4 times because of that.
Okay, fascinating. What an interesting tangent this has been tonight. Thank you, Gail. I don't know if you wanted to add anything to that, but thank you for your input on that.
That's identical to Canada. I can't say about Quebec, because Quebec is under actually not common law. It's code, so it's always different in Quebec. but that's the way the title system works. Anything like an encroachment that has been going on for years doesn't necessarily have to be registered on title, but so there are some exceptions, but it's almost identical to what is in Canada, not necessarily.
Your expertise.
From the that you did, it's indeed quite similar.
Okay, very good. Nunu, as a last word there, says, honestly, I don't see any additional risk. Agilda, me neither. Thank you, both of you. Laronda, I think you had something to add to this part of the conversation as well.
No, not really, not anymore. Gail,
oh, okay, it's been said. Okay, fantastic. Well done, Gail.
Gail actually hit the nail on the head with a lot of stuff I was going to say.
Oh, excellent.
And
okay.
I guess the only thing that I have to say is that title, there are some exceptions and there are some things that it will not cover. And boundary issues might be a thing that's not covered. So
okay. What
it's good to have it.
Yeah, good topic to discuss, and thank you everybody for lifting the lid on that and the opportunity to be able to go into that. Before we lose you, Daniel, I know you've only got a few minutes with you. It's very in demand tonight. Alex says, I might have hopefully misunderstood what Daniel said about a 1-year lease extending to 3 years automatically. What if I want to rent for just 1 year and then move in myself into my property? You're not obliged to stay for 3 years, are you?
Correct. Well, it's the obligation exists for the property owner. So let's say that a yearly contract is offered automatically renewed. By just simply the due effect of the law, the property owner cannot break the contract until 3 years have elapsed. But the tenant will be able to do so once a third of the contract has elapsed, plus 4 months on top. So let's say that the 3-year contract is signed. The tenant will be able to break the contract after 16 months.
Okay.
Or to leave the property after 16 months.
All right. I think that will have calmed Alex's nerves around that, and others here, I think, as well this evening. So thank you for that clarification, Daniel. And before you go, do you suggest that you attend an HOA meeting on our behalf after a purchase? I don't know if you'd want to necessarily, Daniel, but especially if we don't speak much Portuguese. I think that was, forgive me, I can't remember who it was who asked the question, but would you do that for clients? Would you go along and help them if their Portuguese is scant?
For sure. This is something that we do often, especially at this time of the year, January, February, and March, because these are this is the traditional time where HOA meetings will be held. And it's something that it's quite, it's the tradition time to have HOA meetings. And especially when relevant stuff is being decided, like renovations, deciding on budgets, stuff like that, I would highly recommend having someone to represent you, especially if you don't know the language, because otherwise, if you don't understand the language, you'll be in the blind and you'll not be able to vote with the full information. What we usually do with our clients is we receive the documents from the HOA, we study the documents, we do a preliminary meeting with the client, going step by step in all the points, trying to gauge what is the feeling of the client in terms of the direction of the vote. And the vote is a yay, a nay, or what we call abstention vote. So yes, no, or abstention. And we vote and we can add comments on the HOA meeting, things to be written in the minute out of the meeting. And let's say that the owner that we are representing has an infiltration of water in his back porch or something like that. We will convey this to the condominium, and we instigate them to take action and to have budgets taken and then the repairs done at the end. But it's usually a painstaking process to have any renovations in the condominium, because minimum 3 budgets will need to be obtained, then 1 budget will need to be approved, then the money needs to be paid to the people doing the renovation. So the sooner you start acting on problems that are the responsibility of the HOA, the better, because it does take time.
Okay, so in short, yes, Daniel is happy to go as well to these meetings. And you've been more than generous with your time and expertise tonight, Daniel. So thank you very much. I know you wanted to leave at past. I will. So thank you very much.
He needs to answer a question about the will.
You
Sorry,
see,
Daniel.
I was gonna let you go there, Daniel, and say to who asked the
I'll
question.
stay.
Diana,
I'll stay.
Diana
Thank you,
wants
Gilda.
your help.
In fact, I might go make a cup of tea and let Gilda run the rest this next half hour. Diana says, I have a question about a will. Who can answer that? Definitely Daniel. And we will be doing a special, won't we, Daniel, in the coming weeks?
We'll cover the will situation, but what is the question?
Diana
Okay,
hasn't
hi.
put that. Oh,
Hi.
go on, Diana. Go
Can you
ahead.
guys hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
I have my question is, I do have a will here in the US, and I was told that I do need to make another will over there when I get to Portugal. But my will, as of now, it stands that I own a property here, and if I do sell it, do I have to start the process all over again? Like to redo the will if the property is sold and things are changing?
But are you considering to buy any property in Portugal? Because the international will or wills in Portugal are only something to consider if you have assets in Portugal. If you just have your normal day-to-day bank accounts that you insert the money that you're going to spend next month, and you're renting a property and you don't own property or cars here, I would say that you don't need an international will because it's not a factor. It's only for the international will only be able or is only a key aspect if you have a residency permit in Portugal, if you are a tax resident in Portugal, and if you have assets here. And the international will is basically used to avoid the application of the Portuguese law. So if you don't mind the Portuguese law to be applicable, let's say that's at the time that you pass away, your spouse, if you're married, or your kids will inherit the assets in Portugal, then you don't need an international will because kids in Portugal inherit in equal parts, and the spouse, the remaining spouse here, or the survivor spouse here, will inherit the other part. So if you're happy with this result of the Portuguese law, you don't need an international will, because even if the Portuguese law is applicable, you'll be fine with it. But in some specific cases, let's say that you have an estranged kid, that you don't speak with that kid in the last 20 years and you don't want anything, or you don't want him to inherit anything, then having an international will is quite useful, because by the Portuguese law, you're not able to kick someone out of being of inheriting any assets in Portugal. Basically, you cannot differentiate between two of your kids. But if someone wants to do something differently than the Portuguese law, an international will is something that they should really consider. If they're happy with the application of the Portuguese law, no need to bother with the international will. If they don't have any assets in Portugal and they only have assets abroad, no need to worry about the international will. So it's different cases, different situations, but I like to outline them all because it's really different to each case. So
Okay.
I don't know if this answers you fully, or if you have any
No,
follow-up.
that's actually really good. But if I do down the line in the future want to buy a property in Portugal when I move there, then I should probably do it.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay,
Correct.
great. All right, thank you.
Diana, for some reason, I want to say cheers to you. I think it's something to do with your picture.
Yes.
Have a great evening.
Thank you.
And Daniel, Gilda, can he go now? Is that all right?
I think so. He looks like he's starving.
Yes, you've been dismissed by headmistress Gilda.
Thank you, Queen
allowed
of
to go.
the visas.
Thanks,
Thank
Daniel.
you, Carl.
Good.
It was
Great
amazing.
job. Absolute
Thanks.
legend. See you again soon.
Ciao,
Take
ciao.
care.
Bye-bye.
All right,
Take
thanks
care.
very much indeed. Now, my culture question tonight, I'm sad Daniel's going because I'm sure he would have had a good answer. For the first time yesterday in Portugal, a man in the street offered me an urchin, a sea urchin, and I took him up on the offer, and I ate sea urchins for the first time in my life, and especially here in Portugal. So my question for the panel tonight will be, what is the strangest thing you think is eaten here in Portugal? Because the sea urchin was pretty crazy, I have to say, with how I had to prepare it and cook it. I'll come back to you, Gilda and Camilla and Vera on that. And we do have a question for you, Vera. Did Debbie want to talk about sea urchins? I think we need, did you have a question there, Debbie? Or can we mute you back up again? Okay, we'll leave Debbie for the time being. We'll go back to Vera. Shiva was asking, Vera, that you mentioned mortgage rates have dropped recently to 3% for fixed rate mortgages. Just curious, what fixed term is this applicable for, and up to how many years, Vera, please?
Okay, so we have what is advisable at the moment is probably not to fully fix the rate for the entire period of the loan. Let's say if you fix your rate for 20 years time, if your age allows to do so, it's not very intelligent to do at the moment. Why? Because Euribor keeps dropping, is what has been expected. So what we advise our customers is to go for a mixed rate, where you can have a fixed rate for the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, and then change to variable. And then is applied the 3.1, let's say 3.1, 3.2, depending if you want to go for 2, 3, or 4 period of fixed rate. If you prefer to have a fully fixed rate for the entire period of the loan, let's say you want to fix your rate for 20 years time, it's also possible for the non-residents, but the rate will be higher. Let's say 3.6, between 3.5 and 3.7 to fully fix for the entire period of the loan.
Great. All right. Thanks, Vera. Well, let's stay with you. Marcelo is asking, please explain the age mortgage connection. I think Marcelo is probably talking about age limits, right, on lending.
Yes. So for age in Portugal, normally it's up to 75 years old, but we do have an exception. We do work at banks that can go up to 80 years old, but only if you're planning to move to Portugal. So let's say you're moving your country to move to Portugal permanently and you are going to buy your main house, then the bank can go up to 80 years old, and only in this condition.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much for answering that, Vera. And Marcelo, if you have anything else, do let me know. I think my question, re 3 years versus 1 year, wasn't quite understood. To rephrase it, can I have, oh, okay, well, I think Gilda might be able to help out with this from a Casa Portuguesa point of view. To rephrase it, can I have a 1 year lease with no extension to 3 years? What would you say about that, Gilda? Thanks, Vera, for the time being.
Yes, you can, if it is stated in the contract that it's not automatically renewed.
Okay.
You can.
So standard practice would be to have that, but if you write a specific contract, then Alex can get his way, the way he wants it.
Yes.
Great. Okay. Let's stay with you, Gilda. I don't know if you want to go into the sort of political discussion here, but should we who wish to emigrate, retire in Portugal, be concerned about the new political situation? This is Pedro asking the question, and the possible political developments in future in Portugal. It's crystal ball territory, isn't it, how things are going to go? But I'm sure other people have been asking you this, Gilda, people who are working with you and getting visas for Portugal. They must have been asking you about, you know, what the implications are of the election result. What would you say about that?
Well, I'm not as pessimist as Daniel.
Right, thank you.
All
right. Do you want to leave it there, or do you have?
No, first because I think that I don't think that we are going to elections in 1 year.
Right.
I think that they will understand that if they keep on with this position without wanting to work between parties, it's not going to be good for anyone, not for the parties themselves, not for the people, and the European Union funds will stop arriving. Yes. So at the end of the day, no one wants that.
Okay, thank you for that answer. Do you have more to say? Yes,
and also I think that what is making this confusion about immigration, it's not about the visas for people that are taking visas and then with the visas having a residency permit. This all immigration that they've been talking about and they want to stop. It's like the immigration without control, where people come as tourists and then they stay here, they find a job contract and they try to be legalized in that way. Mm-hmm. And it got somehow a little bit out of control. Right. It has to be said. That's why there are so many processes in the IMA. So in that sense, I even agree that it should be a little bit more controlled. Okay, in that aspect or that part of the migration sector. That's interesting. Vera, did you want to add something to that?
Yes, not on that, but going back to the mortgage subject, I would like to have a something, as I just saw one message from someone passing by about the rates and how scary it can be a mixed rate. So let me clarify that.
Thank you.
You might think that way, that can be scary to at the beginning has a mixed rate where you can fix it for the first 3 years. Let's take it as an example, and then you move it to a variable rate. What can scare you at the moment is not to know what the Euribor is going to be at that time. So within 2-3 years time, correct? But the thing is, let's imagine you have a fully fixed rate in 20 years time and you fix it for almost 4% or 3.7%. And in 2 years time, the Euribor and the rates are significantly going to be reduced. So this is a mistake. And once you fix the rate with the bank, normally the banks don't accept it to change the variable. So going back to a mixed rate, if you go for a fixed rate in the first 2 years, and then you change for a variable, and let's imagine the opposite happens, which is going to be the variable rate going to be affected by a very Euribor going really high, then you can negotiate better with your bank, because it's much easier to change from a variable to a fixed than the other way around. The banks don't change normally, almost 100%. They don't change from a fixed to a variable rate. That's the reason why it's better to do this way.
That's great. Thank you for that clarification. That was to you, Laronda, who said, yeah, mixed rate sounds scary. The rate could very well go up instead of down. Doing this, Vera, is it expensive to change? Are there penalties, or is the transition smooth?
Well, it will depend on the bank if they will accept it. Normally, like I just said, the bank don't accept to change from a fixed to a variable, but on the other way around, if you have a variable rate, which many people in Portugal have, for example, and they are going to be affected with the monthly payments because Euribor has been increasing a lot, the bank will accept to make a deal and change you to a fixed rate. But the other way around, no, there's no cost for you. Answering to your question, there's no cost for the client to change from one rate to another.
Excellent. Okay.
You have cost with it. If you have a fixed rate, and this is regulated by the Bank of Portugal, if you do have a fixed rate and if you want to make early repayments every year, so you do have a fee cost of 2% of the paid amount. So imagine you pay 25,000 euros, you have to pay 2% on the paid amount if you have a fixed rate. If you have a variable rate, the Bank of Portugal rule is 0.5%.
Okay, wonderful.
That you pay.
All right, that's brilliant. Thank you very much, Vera. Any more questions about mortgages? Let's put them in the chat for Vera. And of course, yeah, the special next week where we'll have a full-length webinar with Vera as well next Thursday at 7:30. Let's go back to Gilda. Thanks, Vera, for the time being. Marcelo is asking, and we'll come back to you with other visa questions that are starting to come in now, Gilda, Queen of the Visas. If at least 5 years out from a possible relocation, but planning a scouting trip in this year, advice on what steps to take in 24, like getting the NIF, the bank account, and whilst in Portugal. Is it too early if it's 5 years out, or would you recommend doing that whilst here with you?
No, if you're really sure that you want to do that, you can start with an NIF, but the bank account you need to see, because in Portugal all the banks charge fees. You need to see if
5 years worth of fees, of course. Yeah. And I suppose if these things are in place, the bank account's opened and you've got the NIF number, if your plans are hastened, and we have seen that, haven't we? I mean, you must see quite a lot of people who say they're coming in 5 years, then 4 years, and then it's like, okay, Gilda, you need to help me. I'm coming next week.
Yes, that's usually what happens.
Yes. Okay. So Marcelo, it may be definitely worth getting those things in order on your scouting trip in 2024. Over on YouTube, we've got Nubianet, good evening, and Jackie, the humble crafter. Hamad is there as well. Hi, everyone. This is for you, Gilda. Hi, everyone. Any updates on the count of waiting time from the date of submission of Manifesto de Interés? Did IMA issue anyone with the certificate of contagion de tempo de residencia in Portugal? Thanks. That's from Hamid there.
Hello, Hamid. Not that I am aware of.
Okay.
So I cannot answer that question because I never came across to that situation until now.
Okay, all right. And earlier on, Tom Smith, Ala from Ohio. Good to see you, Tom. It's a cloudy 17 degrees here. We don't have a spring season. We have a confused season. It's been a bit like that here as well. Spring is sort of teasing us with her arrival this year in Portugal. Gilda, is now aqui ninguém que eu possa ajudar? IMA's new motto, we can't help you. I mean, it's not their motto, is it? It's what comes up on their website. It shouldn't be mistaken for their company motto. Is that right?
I think that yeah, it's like isn't here someone that can help us?
Yes.
So
yeah, I'm going back to what you were saying politically. And in truth, I mean, people have more to worry about, don't they, with the state of IMA than they do the state of the government, really, because that remains the bigger problem that people will be facing.
yes.
Yep. Okay. Thank you, Diana, for your suggestion of the cultural question. Probably steering us away from the eating of urchins. Let's see what else we've got, though, for questions over on YouTube at the moment. I'm buying a property to live in, says Jackie. Will I be able to apply for my visa once the deposit is paid? I'm in UK at present, and thanks all for the great live stream. Or will I have to wait until the house is paid in full? Obviously, there will be several weeks delay due to surveys and paperwork, etc. I think probably what Jackie's getting at there is you don't have to be a resident to buy a property here, do you, Shilda?
No, you don't. But I think that what she wants to know is that if she can apply for the visa without finishing the process of the purchase of the house.
All
and the answer is yes. With the promissory rental agreement, you are able to apply for the visa.
Okay, excellent. Marcelo, let's staying with you then on a D7. I read the D7 visa has exceptions to living in Portugal related to jobs outside or in the US. Could you explain the exceptions then?
So the exceptions are not attached to any type of visa. They are attached to the time that you have to be in Portugal during the period of your residency permit, despite the type of visa. And the thing is that when the time comes to renew your residency permit, if somehow they check that you didn't comply with the minimum stay, you need to give them an explanation. And the explanations that they accept is if you were out for medical reasons, for professional reasons, or family reasons. So you need then to explain and prove. Of course, everything needs to have a proof.
Okay, excellent. Don't forget, everybody, we've got Camilla here as well from insurance. If you've got any insurance questions, Vera is here from Mortgage Direct. And we have Gilda here answering visa questions. Here's another one. We've got Marcelo and Marcelino here tonight. Marcelino, is it necessary to wait 5 years for citizenship if the person's spouse and children are already Portuguese citizens and are residing in Portugal? Probably more one for Daniel, but I'm sure you can answer that as well, Gilda.
Yes, it's more for Daniel, but if you are married for 3 years with the Portuguese citizen, you can apply for the citizenship.
Excellent. Okay. Michael Whitby also joining us. Boa noite a todos. Back from the Algarve with the last load. That's a move from the Algarve up to central Portugal there. All the best to you in your new home. The Whitby's there. I think that's covering everything over there on YouTube. Ron Turner, the current fixed rate in Portugal is about 3.75. Oh, that's a question rather than a statement. Is that right, Vera? Ron Turner saying the current fixed rate in Portugal is around 3.75%.
5%, I would say, is too high. We cannot, a mortgage direct, we can obtain better. And the thing is, we have a close relationship with the banks. 5%, maybe you can have with some banks, not that I'm familiar with, it seems too high. But with us, via mortgage direct, I can assure you can get a better rate and conditions.
Okay, I think Ron was saying 3.75 rather than 5.
3.7, not 5%. I said before 3.7, fully fixed for the entire period. It's possible.
Okay. All right. So there you go, Ron. Yes, your answer to that there. Okay, I think that's everything. Well, it may not be. If you've got more questions, put them in the chat because we're running out of time. We've got a couple of cultural questions this evening, which is always a great opportunity to find out more about Portugal from a cultural point of view. I think we do want to talk about sea urchins, but let's go to Marcelo, who's you put your hand up to ask a question there, Marcelo. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted to expand on the professional exception about being that.
Yep,
And
for
maybe
sure.
I'm being naive, but in the sense of I got a career here, but hey, I want to start, already the citizenship process. So why not just apply for the D7 visa and then say, yeah, but I have my job or career still here. I assume that's not a reasonable exception, but maybe there is something to that.
Go ahead, Gilda. Are there better options in this scenario?
No. If you stay most of the time out of the country, that is not going to be a good exception, because then they are going to say, okay, so you moved here with the D7, which is passive income, but now you're saying that you have your career outside. Or if you move with the D8, which is a digital nomad, you're supposed to work from Portugal remotely. So that it's not going to be possible. If you want to start to count for the citizenship, then you should go for the golden visa, because in that case you don't have you only have 1 week a year that you need to stay in Portugal.
There you go, Marcelo. Anything else from you?
Yes, I guess the professional exception's right. It makes sense. It's something more nuanced than just that simple of just I have a career outside. Okay.
Yes, but if you can spend like 6 months in Portugal and 6 months out, because there are some jobs where you are able to do that, it doesn't comply with the minimum. But I was able to do that to get a renewal approved with that, which is a little bit difficult because it's 6 months in and 6 months out. But in that case, I explained that the family had their house in Portugal also. So I don't know if you are coming alone or with family. If you have family and your family stays in Portugal, that can be another argument.
Okay, thank you.
Pleasure, Marcelo. Thank you very much. And great name to be coming to Portugal with, actually, Marcelo, of course. And thank you, Gilda, for your answer there. Vera, you're coming back to us with more information?
Yes, so I just share right now in the chat the affordability check link. So for everybody, it's completely free. Don't charge anything for the mortgage in Portugal. We don't charge for our services. So out of curiosity, or if you are interested, you can just fill out this form. This will come straight to me, and I can go back to you with the code. For example, telling you what the rate I can obtain you, how much is going to be your monthly payment rates and conditions. So totally.
Okay, wonderful. Great. That link is there, mortgagedirectsl.com/affordability-check-Vera. That's in our chat now. And I'll make sure that goes over to YouTube as well. So I'll pop that over there in just a moment. I think we're staying with you, Vera. Does the bank offer refinance if you have a fixed rate on a loan?
The bank is always open to check. So if you have refinance, which means you already have a fixed rate or you have a variable rate and you want to see if it's possible to change to a fixed rate. That's what I need to know. Okay. But anyway, the bank is always open to change. We can refinance, or you can even change from a bank A to a bank B. That's
excellent. All right, there you go. That's Diana E. We've got Diana B as well. Saying, haha, Carl, I have scary memories of trying. Thanks, Vera. I've scary memories of trying to catch fresh sea urchins on the Santa Barbara Pier. They were still moving. Eek, I had no idea. Yes, mine were as well, I have to say. Oh, before we go to urchins and pig's ears, somebody had to mention it, and it was Rebecca H tonight. Interesting what Gilda said. So if my wife stays in Portugal and I work for 6 months outside of Portugal both years, might that work, Gilda?
Yes, it might work. Okay. It did work in the past, but you always need to know that it depends on the person that is analyzing the process. But yes, it did work, and if you explain that your home is in Portugal, your center of your family and your center of interest, yes,
Great. Okay.
it's
So
possible.
discretionary, but it has worked in the past, Alex. Thank you for that. For stating that there. Okay, let's go on to, in the last 5 minutes now, let's go into our favorite part, or my favorite part in many ways of the session, where we find out more about Portugal through a cultural lens. Here's my cultural question. Before we get to the food again, here's my cultural question for our modern female Portugueses. So I can't possibly answer that, but I know who might be able to here. What is the polite way to address a modern young woman in Portugal? Señorita, señora, other. I am curious, because in France, many modern young women consider mademoiselle to be diminutive and an infantilizing term, and they prefer to be called madame. Is this similar in Portugal? In the US, we can avoid this confusion with a ms. So I shall ask Camilla, Gilda, and Vera about this situation. Camilla, what would you say addressing young women in Portugal? How does that tend to roll?
So normally the people say senhora. Yeah,
Whatever
but
the
I'm
age,
not
whatever
sure
the age
if
of the
it's...
woman.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
It's
all
more
right.
formal, maybe. Yeah,
Okay.
Gilda, you can compliment it.
Thank you, Camilla, for that. Good to see you here tonight. Gilda, what would you add?
Personally, when someone calls me senhora, I feel too old.
What would you prefer then? What's the
I
answer?
prefer menina.
Menina, also like little, yeah, but this goes into the problem Diana's talking about.
Yes.
Which is, but you don't mind.
No, I prefer.
That was exactly my same answer. Exactly the same. Don't call me senhora, menina, and then it's fine.
Menina, okay, there you go, Diana. I hope that helps this evening. And there is.
Well, so if I go into a shop, you know, and I enter and I say, "Hola, boa tarde," or "Oh, bom dia," menina. I mean, you know.
Yep, I
It
think
depends.
so.
I think, Diana, it will depend on the age. If I would say that probably if she's below 40, I would say menina. If she's more than 40, senhora.
Oh,
probably.
thank you. That's
Although I'm
very
40, I'm 43 and I prefer menina, but
And it depends, doesn't it?
but I don't feel
yeah.
43, so.
And you don't look anything like 43, Gilda, if I may say so, Menina. And it will depend from day to day. You know, sometimes you want to be respected, sometimes you want to be complimented, right? You know, or made to
Yes.
feel comfortable. So, okay, thank you. That very, very good question, Diana, and great answers there.
Can I ask a question, Carl?
Of course, Jackie, please do, Menina.
Menina, isn't it similar to darling? I always think of it when somebody says menina, like somebody saying darling.
No, that is
No?
querida.
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 Yes, querida's good as well. I
So
mean,
how is it different, menina, querida?
Menina is like a woman, but like a young woman. Querida is that you mean that this person is very sweet.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
That's been
It's very
so
helpful. Thank you.
so info. Yeah,
You can always say querida.
Yeah, and you may have noticed, Yoda, when I've sent WhatsApp messages to you, I have been putting querida on there, and I was slightly hesitant, thinking, but I know what to do now. I know what to do now. So
No, but querida is fine. Querida
Okay.
is if you know me, it's I would prefer you to tell me querida.
That's fantastic.
Because this means that you when you think when you think about me, you think of me as a sweet person.
Oh, I know, of course I do. La Ronda, adding to that, I thought Gilda was somewhere in her mid-20s. Good.
Thank you, La
And
Ronda.
amazing how querida is so close to cariad in Welsh as well. So thanks for that, Peda. It looks like we're not going to get a chance to talk about sea urchins. In the last couple of days, I have been given sea urchins to try, which I did, and from an American friend, a jar of fluff, which is like liquid marshmallow. It's been quite the combination.
That's great.
So
I have a jar.
Do you a fluff, Jackie? I mean, it's, you know, the kids loved it. I've yet to indulge. Would you recommend that I do?
With peanut butter, yes,
Yeah.
and
Okay.
white bread.
All right, so here's the last question then. We'll go to Gilda, Camilla, and Vera and ask them what they would like American people moving from America or North America, Canada, or actually anywhere in the world. What would you like people to bring you? What would you like your clients to bring you from elsewhere in the world? Let's start with Vera on that.
I like imans. You know, imans you put in fridge every time I travel, or one of my friends traveling, they ask the iman. You know what is an iman?
No, tell us.
Gilda, help me out. How I say iman? Iman. You know, iman you put in fridge.
When you put in the fridge, those little souvenirs that you buy from every country.
Oh, a fridge magnet. A fridge magnet. Okay,
fridge
that's
magnet.
beautiful. That's beautiful. Okay, so people will be making notes, Vera, of course, Gilda and Camilla. So a fridge magnet. And the fluff and nutter sandwich. Yeah, that's what I've been told to do with this jar of fluff. Thank you, Rebecca. Great question, Carl. So what would you like, Camilla? Well, if somebody wants to bring you a present when they come over to Portugal, what would you like to see them give you?
I have a collection from Neiman on my fridge.
You as well. Okay, so
Yes.
a fridge magnet from where they came from. How
Yeah.
lovely. Okay, not peanut butter, not fluff, but an EMA, a fridge magnet. Okay, thank you, Vera. Thank you, Camilla. Gilda, finally then, what would you like clients to bring you apart from gin, or will that do?
I think that is public. Gin.
Excellent. All right. Let's just stay with gin for the menina there. Although we should probably call you senora for giving you gin or querida, I think. Brilliant. Great session tonight. Over to you. I think I heard Jerry there with the forthcoming attraction.
Well, I just wanted to add a couple of things. Fluff can mean something else, so be very, very careful with that word, okay? I'm not I'm not brave enough to tell you what it means.
That's
just
great,
be
Jerry.
careful with it.
That's great. Thank you for the
Jar
word.
of fluff, yeah. All right, be careful.
And I have a favorite gift that I like to take from Portugal when I'm visiting other countries, which is very simple, but it's always appreciated and it's not seen anywhere else in the world, which is the little packs of the sardine paste.
Yeah.
You know, the little packs of maybe four little tubs.
Yes.
And it costs like €1 or something, and it's a really nice gift to bring from Portugal.
But not great when it explodes in your suitcase.
You sound very cheap, Jerry. You sound like you take your family in America for their
Well,
presents.
I have a very large family, Astrid,
Yeah.
so what can I say?
I bought some of those today, the Intermarché own brand. I think it was about €1.50. Great value. Great value. Thanks, Jerry. Over to you, Astrid, I think.
Wait. Maple syrup gin.
I know,
What
I
is
just
that?
read that too.
Wow.
Maple
Yes,
syrup.
Can't wait.
Brilliant.
Very Canadian.
Oh.
Thanks, Gail.
I might even be able to get you a great looking RCMP officer bringing maple gin from
How
the
about that?
Oh.
I get it to
Lebanese
stay
consulate.
Canadian.
Oh,
Yeah.
that sounds amazing.
Great.
We need a gin night.
Okay, over to you on that last word then, Astrid.
Thanks, Carl. So next week on Wednesday, we have a golden visa update, which is on the events calendar now. You can RSVP directly for that. And then on Thursday, we have the lovely Vera going to be hosting all about mortgages in Portugal. So if you're coming here and you need need to get a mortgage to buy a home, she's the best person for you to speak to. So understanding mortgages here, and that's it.
Perfect. Thanks, Astrid. Até próxima, queridas. And we'll see you all real soon. Oh, a quick comment to you there, Jerry. Thanks, Jerry, for helping out regarding my account from Marcelino as well. Lovely bit of feedback.
Oh,
there.
you're very welcome. Very welcome.
Jackie, were you waving or hoping to speak there?
Just
To
wait.
me.
Good
No, this is
night.
Jackie.
That
that
was
was a boa
great.
noite. Okay. All right. Boa noite, queridas, meninas, senhoras.
Boa noite.
Bye-bye.
Boa noite.